Hi, it's Angela again with another addition to the Why I Stayed series that I'm doing for scarsandtiaras.com. Last week I started off with the very first reason, which was that I stayed because I was a child. I was 13. And this week I wanted to talk further about that. Not just that I was dating this person, but that ultimately I ended up pregnant. And the pregnancy occurred when I was 14. And I ended up getting married to him at 14. And one of the biggest things that people think about that is, well, the first question is, where did you live that you were allowed to get married? The state law at that time was that because I was pregnant and I could prove the pregnancy medically, that I could legally get married. And so even without my mother's permission, which she did ultimately sign for, but even without it, I was able to get married. And so in my 14th year, married, pregnant, and already on my way to living like an adult. So, um, there's a lot of detail that goes into the everything that led to the pregnancy, everything that kind of came out of the pregnancy, everything that happened during the pregnancy. And I'm writing my story out on scarsandtiaras.com. But I just wanted to put a face to it. This is this is also the face of what a grown-up teen mom looks like too. So really, I want to just kind of touch on this though. I don't feel like I owe anybody a reason as to why I stayed. So I'm not doing this series to defend myself, nor do I think any abuse victim owes anybody any answers. So I want to get that really clear right up front. However, I do feel like understanding is helpful. So if I can step out and see, these are the reasons, and I'm not saying there are good reasons or bad reasons or, reasons that you can shake your head and go, oh, that makes sense. Or, I may say something as I'm sharing this where you go, nope, still don't get it. But it's just the point of sharing the why. How it all, snowballed into this big explosion at the end. There's all these small little tiny details that go along. So again, I'm writing it out, but I wanted to talk about it. So this is me, if you can see it, at 14. It's one of the very few, in fact, I think I have 2 or 3 pregnancy pictures. If you could see in detail in this picture, my face, I look like such a baby, and never mind the hair. I was growing out bleach blonde hair. My little egg belly. I've never once regretted being a teen mom. I've said that for years. I'm going to continue saying that. I don't regret my children at all. However, having gotten pregnant at 14 was one more nail in the coffin, if you will, of I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get, beyond this, and how do I get saved, and how, all these different things that, you can look back on and say, oh, well, there were agencies or there were people who could help. It didn't feel that way, and if there was an agency, I didn't know about it. I've worked with a local agency called Choices. It's a pregnancy center here in Woodland Park, Colorado, and I work with it, and I can see if something like that had been in my life, I absolutely could have found myself on a different path. And maybe without, the long road that I took with my ex-husband and the father of my children. So, but that's it. I was pregnant, and pregnancy, no matter what age you are, often makes women feel like they don't have another choice. It's one thing to try to figure out how to take care of yourself, but when you then have to take care of another person, it just amplifies. It builds onto this, foundation of being lost and feeling just without any kind of hope. And so my baby became my hope, and I also had this hope that this baby could make him a better man. And once he saw this baby, our relationship could change. And I have to say with the caveat that he wasn't terribly abusive then. And not in a way that I could see when I was in it. Now I can look back and see ways he controlled me, ways of jealousy, ways of violence. He did rape me after we were married and I was pregnant. And I do share that story as my story unfolds on scarsandtiaras.com. And yes, for those who don't know this, no still means no. even when you're married. So, a series of things happened and that affected me, but I held on to that hope. And it was, a savior mentality I've always had. And I've just been learning in recent years that, I can't save anybody. I can barely even save myself. But, I can reach out now for resources and to help others. But then I didn't have it. So at 14 and pregnant and married, that was why I stayed. I needed, I had hope and I needed help. And so as I continue this series, there are tiny little reasons, but they're big reasons why I stayed. And I know you can just read the title and say, well, she was pregnant. That's why she stayed. So I hope you will continue on this journey with me. I hope you will read my story. I hope you will share with others. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. And then as this series goes on, share your own stories and share your own thoughts and understandings or confusion. If you're still confused, I want to discuss that. So thank you so much for tuning in again, and I will see you next week when I go into the next reason of why I stayed. And again, it's not because I owe you anything or owe anybody any explanation, but I do want everyone to understand, and I do want to be a voice for those who can't stand up and say, this is why I stayed. So thank you. Scarsandtiaras.com.